For today's podcast, we are super excited to talk about our story as far as growing up Africans in America. Let's get it popping.
You are now tuned into Five African Brothers Podcast.
Five African Brothers Podcast? Has your father approved this podcast?
This ain't your ordinary podcast. We are five blood brothers and children of the diaspora, and on this podcast, we share our experiences, our struggles, and how we navigate the world as young men and children of the continent. Buckle up.
Struggle.
All right, y'all. What's going on, everybody? This is your boy Marvin, co-host of Five African Brothers Podcast, and I am super excited to bring you guys another podcast installment from four gentlemen who I look up to, and these are great individuals. Of course, we're talking about the family. What up, everybody?
What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, good. Good to see you guys, man.
Good to see everybody. So we're here for another podcast installment of Five African Brothers. I am Marvin. We have CJ, Uche, D-Boy, and Justice. And this podcast, we bring this to you guys every week with the goal and the objective for you to learn something. You know, learn a little bit more about us, the things that make us tick, the things we agree on, the things that we disagree on, and everything in between. So for today's episode, we're talking about the African experience in America from our perspective. The majority of us are 80s and 90s babies. So I'm super excited to talk about today's episode because I know one of us or all of us is going to share some funny story about this experience as diasporans. But before we jump in, as always, if you appreciate the content that we're throwing up, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast on all platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Follow us everywhere. And we're going to bring this content to you at no less than a weekly basis. Eventually, we will actually do live streams where we'll get to interact with you as the audience. But in the meantime, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and wherever you consume podcast content. So we're going to jump in, see how y'all week going. We're going to start with CJ. CJ, how's your week going, big dog?
Man, my week was good. Got some vacation time from work, so I took advantage. Went down to Austin and got to bask in that amazing weather they have down there, Justice. Golly, man, it's amazing.
It's nice out here.
Yeah, it is. Really nice. So yeah, that was my week, man. It was pretty cool like that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Big Uche, how's your week going, man?
Hey, week's going great. Anybody here in the Houston area, y'all know that we got this amazing, crazy weather. I went from shirt to sweatshirt, shirt to sweatshirt in a matter of days, and sometimes in the same day. So other than that, we're blessed. It's not an ice storm, so I can't complain at all.
Yeah, H-Town weather is definitely bipolar for sure. D-Boy, how's your day going?
Man, my day's going very well. Blessed to be here. Every day's a blessing, man, and just happy to be alive, man. Just happy to be alive. I'm grateful for life and employment, because that's a blessing every day that we get sometimes take for granted.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, my week's gone well. I have no complaints. Like you, bro, CJ, we took a quick road trip down to Florida. We also stopped off in Montgomery, Alabama, and that was a crazy experience, just going to the Justice Museum, talking about the African experience here in America and Jim Crow, civil rights. It's always eye-opening to see it, but definitely needed some downtime. Still debating on whether or not we're going to get vaccinated. That's something that we having a conversation on, but everybody's been hitting my phone like, when you getting vaccinated? And I've been hitting other people's phone like, when you getting vaccinated? So I was excited. Depending on when you catch this content, I had my eye on one of the vaccines, and then that one fell off, and then another of the vaccines, that one is having some issues. So I don't know how we're going to do this thing, but we're praying just as a family and as a collective that our nation will heal, and the good Lord will just remove it automatically from everybody. And that would be awesome. That'd be awesome. So that's how my week's gone. It's gone great. Got some travel in. No complaints. How about you, bro, Justice?
My week's been good. Me and my artist Drain are getting ready to drop his fourth music video and single for the year. We committed to Yeah, one video a month. We did January, February, Marches. Those have been circulating, doing good. And we actually think this April banger is going to be the one that might, really help us take off. So really excited to drop that this weekend, just continue to market and push that. So yeah, my week's been real fulfilled. contacting a lot of different people in the industry about his music, really just getting it out there, shooting our shot lots of different directions. And I know one of these days, one of those shots is going to shoot back. So it's exciting to fill in and keeping on that manager grind for sure. So
keep firing, bro. Keep firing. That's all. That's the game. Keep firing. Eventually you'll hit something. So, all right, y'all. Well, we're talking about growing up African here in America, and the majority of us, the older three. So if you're listening to this, we're five brothers, and we are at least the first three. The biggest gap is about 3 years, D-boy, between me and you. What's the age gap between me and you?
I'm 35 in May, so. Okay,
so I'm 38. So yeah, I'll be 39. So yeah, about four years, and then between myself and Uche, it's a little under 2 years as far as age difference. But then it was the first three, and then our parents decided they wanted to keep on going with it. So after 8 years, here comes brother CJ, and I'll tell y'all this just quickly, my little story about it. I was mad at our parents. I'll be honest with you, because it was us three, and I love my baby bros. I love y'all to the moon. But I was upset. I'm like, man, you gonna have this big old gap between us three, and then y'all just decided y'all want to have some more kids, and I get it. They wanted to have more. Our father loves a big family, and so that here comes CJ, and then right after CJ comes Justice. And many people thought CJ and Justice were twins for a little while. Do you guys remember dealing with that, CJ and Justice?
All the time. Goodness. It was the ball phase.
When I post CJ, they still say, "You're twin."
And I got dreads. Ain't that something else? They be like, "Yeah, y'all look alike."
But y'all do look alike.
Y'all kind of look alike. Y'all kind of favor. We all kind of favor. But when they was us three, and then of course it became us five, and then apparently our mom said, "Okay, that's it. I'm not getting a girl out of this situation." Maybe that's what they were trying for. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe that's why they kept having kids. But we've been with five brothers, and so that's very unique in and of itself, because for the longest period, those of us that have children, it was all girls up until bro D-boy. He broke the chain with baby Major. So D-boy, how does it feel to have the first boy? And then we'll tell our stories as far as the situation growing up in America. But how does it feel to have the first boy out of everybody?
Man, it's man, it is something, to say the least. Because that little boy, he's a bundle of energy. Mm-hmm. He stays on 10 from the time he wakes up to the time he falls asleep. He is on 10. So
define 10. What define 10 for those that don't know?
Let's see.
Compared to your girls, because you had girls as well. Yeah.
Right. So imagine if you're playing a video game, right? Like you're playing Madden and you're running, and then you hit the turbo button. This turbo button is on the entire day. Okay, slow down for nothing. So, but at the end of the day, it's all worth it. But it's a lot of it is added pressure too, because now it's like a direct, like a boy version of me. Like, okay, hey, he's like a little boy version of you. So you really, really got to show him exactly how to be, how not to be. So it's good, but I love it at the end of the day, and that's my little man. That's my little man.
I love it.
One quick thing about nephew Major. We just got together last weekend, the whole family. Major literally, he was talking about on 10, him running around on turbo. Y'all, this little baby has calf muscles. Like, literally has
whoa,
a child his age with calf muscles. And he was like, he's just running around all the time, runs on the tippy toes, runs whatever. He's so on go, he's building muscles, y'all. At this age.
What?
Like, it's not. I was like, young athlete in the making, you know what I'm saying? But I just thought that was a little bit peculiar. Like, this kid is really active, and his body is reflecting it. So
wow. Yeah. So his experience, obviously, and our nieces that are here, their experience is going to be different because they're born in, of course, the decade that we're in right now. But let's talk about what it was like growing up, in the 80s and 90s. Here in this place called America. Who would like to tell their story as far as your childhood up and through high school, middle school, and then becoming an adult? Who would like to go first?
So I'm gonna go ahead and start it off. And my experience is much different from you guys, being the only one that was born in Nigeria, and then went through the process of coming to America. So I would say that, you know, it was a little lonely. You know, when I was born in Nigeria, it was around the same time my parents transitioned to America. So I was born, and then, you know, they kind of had to say, America, the land of opportunity has called. So they had to answer the call. And unfortunately, you know, it kind of delves into the immigration system that we have. You know, it's like an individual may get the opportunity to come to America on, I guess, you know, our parents came on student visa, but the system will say, okay, well, if you're coming to America to get a better education, why do you need to take your son? And that was kind of like my experience. They didn't allow our parents to come with me. So I was in Nigeria, and I was raised by our grandparents, uncles and aunts. You know, so I got a chance to travel amongst the family members. I would spend my school years or school months in Abia State, Nigeria. So that's where so that's where I would go to school, and then in the summertime and in Christmas, I'll come to the village. So I'll then come and hang out with our grandparents and all the village people, and it was very festive. You know, the Christmas time was a very celebrations time. All the people that traveled would come home and hang out in the village, and like literally from a week before Christmas up until New Year's, it was like a party almost every day because everybody was celebrating. I mean, you work hard in the city, and then you come back to the village to, you know, show the fruits of your labor, see your parents. That's when everybody came and took care of their parents, and all the village kids would hang out, and we all would dance. Well, you know, Marvin, you remember Ekleke? You know.
Of course.
Ekleke, that's which is another word for the little festivities, festival that would go around. So, you know, so that was pretty much how I grew up. And then I had the opportunity to come to America. Hey, look, coming to America was a real culture shock. All right. When you're growing up, of course, I was not quite a teen yet. So I got a chance to see life. When they say see life, you're talking about not having running water, you know, taking a bath and you run your water in the bucket, and then you go to the bathroom area and take a bath. Okay, so that's how it was when I spent time in the village. Y'all would call that a town, but back home we called it the village. So when I came to America, I could go to the tap and turn on the water. You know, which in the city part in Aba, there was running water. Of course, there was, you know, bathroom and bathtubs and all that. But like I said, it was not just quite the same. I'm talking about coming to America was a real culture shock in a good way, and also gave me the opportunity to reunite with my siblings. So I went from that's me. Now, so I went from being I guess an only child to now coming to America and automatically having two brothers. So Marvin and D-Boy, you guys were born at that time. So I now got into the school system here. I was in the ESL classes because, you know, I was coming from another country. So technically I was learning how to speak English, although English is the first language in Nigeria because we were colonized by Britain. So I went through the ESL class process. That was nice. I got to be the African kid. Yeah, know that expression. And it was, you know, and it was funny growing up. So my name was Uche. My name is Uche. So I introduced myself. And right around the same time, there goes that little 90s thing. There was a song came out. Y'all remember it? It was called Uche Coochie La La La.
Oh, yeah.
So when I said my name, people would now start singing that song. And I'm like, and I heard it. So I'm like, okay, that's a nice little song, you know. And so I didn't mind. Also, at the same time, Akeem Olajuwon was coming up, so we had the Nigerian Nightmare. So out there on the little courts in elementary and middle school, I was the Nigerian Nightmare myself. You know, I was 5'9", 5'8", 5'9" in elementary school. So I was also the tallest kid. Everybody compared me to, I think, Sean Bradley at the time. I would get that tall. Yeah, Manute Bowl. I heard all the jokes. And of course, you know, being a young, aggressive kid cut straight out of Nigeria, I had to smack a couple people, man. I'm sorry to say that. But every time, you know, this was the time that people thought before it was cool to be Nigerian. All right, it's cool to be Nigerian now. Now everybody wants to, you know a Nigerian, be part of Nigeria. do their ancestry roots to Nigeria, but back then they wanted to call us African booty scratch. Okay, remember that? And the first time I heard it was the last time, because the kid that said to me, I think I smacked him. I ended up in the principal's office, and for some reason he thought that I should think it was funny. I didn't think it was funny. You trying to get a laugh at my expense? I'm sorry. I was raised in a place where somebody got on your nerves, you got to smacking. I got smacked. So when he came with the African booty scratcher joke, and I thought, I was like, oh, he's laughing at my expense? we had to shut it down. So that, you know, then we had high school and college. And so the experience was one that was great. You know, we're going to probably go back and forth in the stories, but I'm going to let somebody else, whoever's going to jump in next, and then I'll come back with some more stories as we were growing up.
Who'd like to go next?
Who got the mic?
I think since Uche went, I guess I'll jump in just
from the first to the last. Go ahead.
First to the last, you know what I'm saying? Because our experiences, I feel like are going to be probably the most different, and then we can kind of like jump in between, to brothers in the middle layer. But for me, like even just hearing some of the things Uche's talking about is like it's crazy, because for the first couple of years of his life to not have running water from the tap, him actually living in Africa, having to go, that routine of going to get water, going to fetch water, as they'll say. That's just really crazy to think about. I had I had pretty much all those luxuries from the moment, from the entire time growing up. So it's really crazy to think about. Now, although I might not have dealt with like how it was living in the village or have any of that experience, I definitely still know what it means to have to deal with the African booty scratcher comments and everything like that in elementary. It's funny. I started, me and CJ, we actually started off in private school, so we were the only black kids in the school. So in our grades, so they didn't really know they didn't really know African versus black or anything like that. We didn't really deal with any like black jokes or anything like that. And luckily, nobody was outwardly like racist or anything like that towards us. So it was cool. But when I moved to public school in about third grade. And we made that public school move where it was like it's a school full of black kids, and we're now Africans.
That was a culture shock too.
We really found out like, no, y'all are African. What's your last name? O'Reilly? O'Reilly? Y'all Irish? No, we're not.
I did go as Irish for a little while.
With all the jokes, I'm like, maybe it might be a little bit easier if we do say we're Irish and leave us alone, because
Facts.
I mean, man. So, yeah, I mean, like Uche said, saying just growing up African, definitely got a little bit of a different experience. Also, I feel like our parents, when with the oldest three, I feel like there was a lot more like cooking of African food in the house versus with us. Mom was making spaghetti, meatloaf, all the just American foods. So I really don't. I feel like I kind of like missed a lot of the possible culture that you guys got to experience. But definitely when it came to the public setting, we definitely still were reminded that we're African, and it's cool now, but it wasn't always cool back then.
Nah, man, no, you speaking facts, Justice. You speaking facts. It was quite the experience. You guys get ready for some jokes because I'm about to fire a few off. So let me tell y'all a story. So as Uche mentioned, being the only one born, in Nigeria, I'm the oldest born here in America. I always say that I must have been the Uche was the reason they got to come over here, but I was the reason they got to stay, and for lack of a better word, because if you have a baby here in America, anchor baby. Yeah, you said it. So I realized that growing up here, obviously, I knew that, at least for me, we grew up when our parents got here. They had me. It was a little while before they had D-Boy. We were in the third ward part of Houston, 288 area. If you're familiar with the area with Houston, it wasn't the best part of town. Very close to where the Texans play, but it was before it was real nice in that area. It was basically the hood. And I have a lot of respect for our parents in hindsight, because they really made the best of their situation with the limited, resources that they had. I recall our dad telling the story of how shortly after my birth, there was a situation where they were very trusting, and because back home, everybody shares everything. You know what I'm saying? And so they got that rude awakening very quickly that America's a little bit different. And so apparently he worked the situation out with somebody that was supposed to help move some of their stuff that they bought for me as a newborn baby. And that person ended up stealing all their items. And so you can imagine our mom as a young mother, the whole thing, as far as those of us that have children, that your person is nesting. So they want to get their whole situation right for the arrival of the baby. And then only to find out everything that you bought for that baby has now been stolen by somebody. So, it turned into a bit of a weird start to this American experience for them, I'm sure, as young parents. And so we fast forward to, when my first experience in kindergarten, and I remember our mom dropped me off, and if you know anything about our parents, they don't talk about certain things. They don't warn us about certain things. Maybe they just assume life will be the best teacher, and we'll just experience it, and then we can ask questions, and then they can answer those questions. But she drops me off for kindergarten. Didn't tell me at all that she was going to leave. And I've been told that I am the most clingy to our mom, and because for the longest time it was just me and her in a lot of situations. But when she dropped me off, y'all, I looked back and I was like, okay, I'm going in here, and then she was like, yeah, I'll be right there. So it's a long hallway. We went to elementary school, Longfellow Elementary. It looks completely different now. But it's a long hallway. So I noticed as I was standing by the door waiting for her to, come and walk me into this classroom, after she walked out, she was going the opposite direction from me. And so I'm looking around like, where's this lady going? And all of a sudden, this big hulking kindergarten teacher, because it was a big lady, and I'm 3 foot something, so everybody was big, escorts me this way and says, okay, come on, Marvin. And I'm like, hold on, lady. Hold on, before you tell me, come on. Where's my mom going? So needless to say, she disappears, and I'm tight the whole day as a kindergartner. I'm tight. And so fast forward to middle school, high school, our parents gave us Igbo names. So every time there was a substitute teacher, and you all probably can explain this share this sentiment. Whenever a substitute teacher would come in, it usually was a Nigerian person. And so I would warn them when I walked into the classroom. I walk in and say, okay, you see that name right there? That's me. So you don't have to worry about calling me. I'm here for attendance.
Give him a warning.
And so the teacher is like, okay, no problem. And so he must not have been paying attention to me when I gave him this disclaimer, y'all. But he calls the A's, the B's, the C's, and then he gets down to our name. Then he says, Chigozie, hey, Chigozie, hey, I know your mother, I know your father.
Of course.
Game over at that point. I thought I was cool, and I was cool until your substitute teacher, who has a strong accent, tells everybody in the class that they know your mother and they know your father. So I'm just burying my head like this, like I just warned this dude that I'm here already. So the whole class, I turned into his default assistant. He's like, Chicos, yeah, go and get the paper and pass the paper around to everyone and then bring it back to me. Okay, do it fast. So I turned into a houseboy out of nowhere. I just became a houseboy. And I turned into the servant for the whole class. So all my friends laughing at me at the time. It is what it is. So needless to say, just wrapping my perspective up, it wasn't fun in the 80s and 90s. And like Uche said and Justice said, it's cool now, to be African. And I love that. I appreciate that, because that means the next generation, we're the ones that took the blows, and the next generation, they get to walk with that pride, across the board. So that's my perspective on it. But young D-Boy, I look forward to hearing. Let me tell you, D-Boy, he gonna tell his story. D-Boy, let me know if this is accurate or not, y'all. D-Boy was the most connected to the. He was like he was the dude as it relates to all of us. Like D-Boy was the one that was like
from the streets.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. I always tell people he was my hood brother. I tell
You
my
got
friends
him
that all
I
the
was,
time.
I was trying to be nice about it.
Say the way you feel it.
The most good educated hood eccentric thing. I'm like, nah, like I was
Yeah.
I'm telling my mom,
Yeah.
Certified in all the hoods. in the Southwest.
He was
Come on,
certified.
come
He was
on.
certified.
That's my hood brother for sure.
D-boy, you got to tell your stories. Dude. You got to bring them. You don't act like you don't know what we're talking about. Don't act like.
Man. Where to start? Growing up a Nigerian, an African, man. Whew. First, I would say this: as far as it relates to school, you definitely had to have some tough skin because,
Absolutely.
man, when I tell you, we got it so bad in school with the teasing, from the African booty scratcher to the you stink or you smell or your clothes are dirty.
Oh man.
It's like society had brainwashed people into believing that if you were African, you were dirty, you lived with pigs, you lived in the dirt, you lived in huts, you didn't have nothing, you smelled. So it's like going into a school and you walking in, everybody's automatically stereotyping you like that. If you didn't have tough skin, you definitely got it bad, And luckily over time I built up tough skin. But it was tough. It was definitely tough. But mine was a little different as far as in school. I don't know why I just gravitated towards the type of friends that I have. I mean, those are just my friends, but I guess some people would consider them to be of hood or a certain name, but they're just my guys, But I mean, my experiences with them, just they're just good guys, and I learned a lot from them as well as they learned from me, because there's a lot of stereotypes that they would have. Like one, for example, some Black Americans think that there's a difference between us and them, and I believe that we're the same. There's no difference because my last name may be O'Reilly and your last name is Johnson. Doesn't mean we're different. We're the same, but a lot of people sometimes fight that, and I don't understand that. But to me, that's a stereotype that some people buy into. But I love it. I love my upbringing. I've been able to experience some good things, some bad things, some good situations. We'll get into that more a little bit in this podcast, but I wouldn't change it for the world, man, at all. I promise you.
Love it. What about you, CJ? Tell us your story.
Yeah, so I feel like me and Justice's experience was a little different from y'all's. I don't think it was. I mean, granted, we heard the jokes and everything, but I don't think it was as aggressive with y'all. I think if by our age we were kind of assimilated in to everything. So I feel like our upbringing was similar to some of those around us. I think we dealt with a lot of the same things. I definitely had the whole name calling experience, and all that. But I guess the biggest difference was, for sure, this our adherence to school. I think as Nigerians, I think we just take school so seriously, like so early, that it kind of just trickles down later into life, like it just was so serious. Even in middle school, I felt like I was just kind of, a decent student, but when I had first met my new 8th grade science teacher, some of you guys might know him, Peter Uwalaka. When I tell you he took science and just making sure me and the other Nigerians in my class knew this stuff, like I didn't even think I could be decent in science. You know what I mean? But when I tell you, Peter, he was like, no. We are different. We can't be flunking. We can't have D's. We can't have F's. No, if any of y'all got C's, y'all are coming to my classroom at lunch and we're studying. We're going to figure all this out until you guys are making A's. I don't care what y'all other grades are. Y'all are making A's in my class, So he just kind of embodied that for us all as Nigerians at that school at that time. We got to take our school and our books seriously, So I think that's my whole experience is kind of like clouded with that, like you need to face your books. Please don't do anything else. Face your books. So,
One
Yeah.
thing real quick about CJ and D-Boy, just as a segue. It's funny we call D-Boy the hood brother. I got called.
I didn't call him anything, but yes,
Well,
go
I
ahead.
called D-Boy.
I call him that too.
It's funny because I was always called like proper. Like me and CJ, we started off, like I said, we started off at private school and got that culture shock when we went to, when I was going to third grade, CJ was going to fourth grade from private school to public school.
Yeah.
Now, for me, my first day of school was horrible. I was like, these kids are bad. They're cussing. They're running around. They're aggressive. You know, I keep getting bumped and pushed in the hallway. It was like a jungle for me. I was like, I came home. I was already sad when they told me that we were leaving. I was like, we're not my friends. What you about to build a little empire over there? Because I might have been the black kid, but I was running that private school. I got dropped in that public school the first day, and I'm African. My last name is a little weird, and I'm talking about they kept. You talk proper. Why you talk so proper? He talk proper. I don't like it. And that's just how I was. And when I tell you, I mean, it was just a horrible first day. Like everyone was mean, cussing. I just was like, y'all can't say that. Like, hey, talk proper. When I tell you, we get home, I'm telling my mom is like, our mom is like, how was the first day of school? I'm just telling her about the whole day, how horrible it was, how bad it was. See, that comes in. I had a great day. It was cool. Mind you,
so why? I was cool. Like
out of private school because he was acting up, and my mom was like, "Okay, if they say he got to go, y'all both got to go." So I already got dropped away. I already got taken to this public school because of him. And for him to say, "Cool, I love it," I was like, "What is happening?" So it's just crazy. I say all this to say, CJ's. Between me and CJ's the only one between me and D-Boy. He's a bridge to the hoodness. CJ is also my other friend. Like, I just want to say that. You know what I'm saying? And lastly, after elementary school, I made sure all the schools I went to were across town. These magnet schools and all types of. I was like, I don't care if I got a bus.
And then he dragged me across town.
I need to go to school outside this neighborhood because middle school, I was like, if these kids are this bad in elementary, I can't even imagine going to middle school. D-Boy went, loved it. He was fine. He made all his friends. CJ went first year. Was like, I like it. It's cool.
And then he dragged me across town.
Then I had to drag him to the private school. We had a great time over there. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how like I was getting called proper, and we over here calling D-Boy hood. It's just we all so different. So I thought that was cool.
And when Justice said across town, I'm just without saying the name of the schools per se. I'm just gonna give y'all a scenario. So the high school that Justice and CJ went to was in River Oaks. So if y'all know Houston, Texas, you know what area River Oaks is. Okay, our high school that me, Marvin, and D-Boy ended up going to. Long story short, but
He's the bridge. He's the bridge.
He's the bridge.
He didn't want to be on that bridge no more. He's like, nah. It's in the heart of the Southwest, so it's a Southwest Houston high school, the West. But yeah. Justice just pretty much said, look, I ain't about that life. I don't want that life. Let me go across town, man. Yeah. It was a huge difference. Yes.
Yeah, and what's funny though about it though, man, is that even though our high school situation was different, a different decade and all that, we all have those funny stories though. Am I right or wrong, y'all? Where it's like it really didn't really matter, like the stigma that was there. We knew we were different. Even for me, I went to, at a certain point, I went to a skip school in Third Ward to get caught up. And so for me, I had to assimilate in a different way because I went from a fairly hood middle school to a super hood skip school is what they called it. And it was in the heart of Third Ward. And when I tell y'all, I had the grills, but I didn't put the real grill because I knew coming home to our parents, you better take that stuff out of your mouth. So I put the I put the grill in the joint that was detachable. But how I messed up in the game, y'all, if y'all remember pizza pockets. Y'all remember pizza pockets in high school? In school. And so they called it pizza pockets in school. Maybe it was hot pockets. I don't know. But I had a cap, a gold cap that I kept in my mouth because remember, y'all, your boy had 2 strikes against me. I was at a hood school and we were African. So I had to assimilate real quickly and I put the little gold cap in my mouth. But again, it was nothing permanent because our parents, right? Hashtag our African parents. So I had to eat my lunch in the restroom. Because if I try to chew my pizza pocket with that cap in my mouth, I would be choking on that gold, well, fake gold. It wasn't real, fake gold. So somebody caught me in the restroom and was like, Marv, what you doing eating pizza pocket in the bathroom, bro? I got a boo boo. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. So, that's how I knew. I was like, man, I gotta figure this thing out, man. I gotta appreciate it and be who I need to be who I am, or not. So, but that's hilarious though. But let me ask y'all, with everything going on right now, you know what I'm saying, and the fact that D-Boy, you mentioned it earlier, we're all the same. And I take that same sentiment. I believe we're just all one people. We just are spread out, across the world in various ways. Do y'all think with everything going on right now that there are any advantages in any kind of way as far as having an immigrant background versus not, or do you think there's any disadvantages? I mean, I kind of feel like there's advantages and there's disadvantages because a lot of stuff we were very much sheltered from, and it's things that we ended up experiencing later in life and not really quite knowing how to handle it. But like, what do y'all think? Do you feel like it's an advantage or disadvantage?
So I'll take this one as to say, so remember my it was about eight years that I was in Nigeria before coming to America. And one of the things that that I learned from being there, to like how, some of the situational issues, let's just say, let's take the law enforcement angle for an example. Growing up in Nigeria, in those areas that I grew up, the police officers were law. Like, there was no law that said you could ask for a badge number. There was no law that said you could actually say, hey, I know my rights. It's like, if you got pulled over by a police officer, you absolutely, you dang near had to get out of your car and sit down on the ground while they talked to you and did whatever they did. That, like, there was no, there's just really no, and police brutality. Oh my God. If you ever gone to an African country, police brutality doesn't exist because it's the way some of them do interact with you. If they pull you over and they say something to you and you answer them any way that they feel like is slick, they're going to slap you. Okay. And it's not even funny, but they are going to smack you for like your tone got like if your tone gets aggressive, they're going to slap you. So I came to America with that mentality that already knowing that police officers can kill. It wasn't fun to know that because I'd seen that in Nigeria. You hear stories. So when I came here and I was old enough to drive and I got pulled over, I mean, I already kind of had the fear that I think some people are experiencing now from actually seeing the shootings, but I naturally had that fear already in me. So when they pulled me over, it was, it was like overly complicit, overly compliant. Okay. There wasn't even it wasn't later on that I was like, okay, well, I do have rights that I now was, I could talk about my rights per se, but still in that fearful / respectful tone. I mean, if they had pulled me over, I would probably come out the car and lay down on the ground just because that's what I had been kind of ingrained in my mind from my time in Nigeria. So that's one of the things that was different for me. But I think being an immigrant, it was beneficial to me. I don't mean to get too deep, but I will say that that's what I came into this country with, that already fear of law enforcement, because I've actually seen it in societies where there is no, there are no lawyers that's going to be able to get significant awards for the families should an individual be gunned down by the police officers. It just didn't exist there. Things are better now, but back then, I mean, we saw the SARS riots, and that was Nigerian youth standing up to say, hey, look, police brutality is not right. This is not the way law enforcement should do their job. But for a long time, that's how it was and how it still is, unfortunately, in a lot of African countries.
Gotcha. God, great points, man. Great points. What about you, CJ?
Yeah, Uche. Just to piggyback a little bit off what you were saying, I wouldn't even, so much as call it fear as I would say intelligence. I feel like, our background has just kind of given us this, inherent advantage to just really read in between the lines, and just, I don't want to say all situations, but you just have this thing in the back of your head where you just kind of like are always analyzing, always kind of like just making sure that, you're handling yourself in a proper manner to make sure you represent your family in a proper manner. You know what I mean? I feel like that's just one major advantage. And maybe that causes you to, you kind of pay attention to the law a little bit more aggressively. Maybe you don't talk back to, not only police officers, but your elders, I think that just inherent, it just like I just think we just kind of recognize those things a little differently, coming from where we come from. So, I take it as an advantage though. What you guys think?
Well, let me ask you: have you had any direct dealings with law enforcement that you've seen the advantage actually play out,
Yeah.
or can speak to any friend or someone you know that's dealt with it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess specifically to me, I think I've had a few dealings with law enforcement where, they were, a little verbally aggressive, you know what I mean? But I think, just knowing law enforcement, period, you know, you just don't yell. You know what I mean? You don't talk back, you don't get aggressive.
Absolutely, that
Yeah,
emotional
it's like
intelligence.
emotional intelligence is probably what I would call it. Because at the end of the day, you know, I think we all kind of understand that this isn't the landscape to fight whatever issue you have with this law enforcement officer. You know what I mean?
Mm.
At the end of the day, hey, you got to make it back to your crib, and we'll handle it there.
You gotta make it home. You gotta make
Got
it
to
home.
make it home. So I think that has been an advantage of being able to read in between the lines from our upbringing. You know what I mean? Like I think that's just one of those trickle down advantages that come with it. But yeah, I think that's been my experience.
And also kind of growing up, we all remember when our mom would tell us when we got in trouble, Uche, Marvin, you're not the same. And I think that's their way of that's their protective way of saying you can't just do what everybody else does.
Yeah, big
Okay,
time.
yeah,
Yeah,
just don't think that you're the same as these Americans. And she just these Americans. She didn't put a color on it. Just say you're not the same as these Americans. You're different. You're an
exactly,
immigrant. And
exactly.
and also, we also know that when our parents came to this country, they did face some discrimination. It's a fact.
Mm,
Within the culture, yes, there was discrimination between white and black. And I don't mean to get off the topic, Marvin, but there was also discrimination in the black culture. And that was between immigrants and between black Americans and black immigrant Americans. Within the culture, there was our parents weren't always accepted by other blacks as being blacks, and I think you touched on that as well, CJ, earlier. So they had to kind of face that discrimination. So when we came, they were trying to tell us how to move. As we were getting older, they're like, "Hey, look, you all have to be careful. Yes, you have to be careful of the white man, but unfortunately, you have to be careful of the black man as well." And like you said, CJ, just having that emotional intelligence to just kind of always be aware of your surroundings, always listen, read in between the lines, understand that the way you win an argument or with whoever is by still making it home to your family. That's what matters at the end of the day. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Young
Yeah.
Justice, what's your views?
Yeah, I definitely think it has some advantages, as well as it's a little bit more obstacles and hardships, just a few. But one thing that Uche definitely hit on the nail and CJ backed up was it is. I think with us there is a little bit more of a when it comes to. I definitely think with law enforcement, I've never seen a video where someone of African culture like really kind of got rowdy with the laws or was mishandled. I feel like we do have just more of a like, okay, respect. Like if it goes left, it's gonna be really because of the officer. I don't think it's like, I've never seen an African act a little crazy with law enforcement. Not that that warrants anything done in reaction, but just saying. So I think that respect is something that's kind of just instilled in us. Secondly, with the as far as another advantage, I feel like is just we do have a better sense of reading the lines because when we deal with, in the public, we have a little bit of not really fitting fully in with just African Americans that are just born here. They don't really know where they come from, as well as still not having to navigate between other races, white people, Spanish people, just any other race. So I feel like we're a little more on our toes due to the fact that we know we are of immigrant descent. We're African, and I feel like we're just a little more on our toes, and that plays up to our benefit. But a disadvantage is sometimes there are stigmas that come with with being African. For example, Africans are scammers, or they do these email schemes, or these 419 schemes and different things like that. I feel like, I don't know, Marvin, you tell me, but I know Marvin's done some work in like the finance realm, and I'm like, I wonder if that's ever played up a part. People thinking like, watch out for Africans, they're scammers.
Absolutely.
Have you had to fight against that? Because there's just some stigmas that just aren't true. No, out of the 5 of us here, there's no scammer in the 5 African brothers. So I feel like there's just some negative stigmas that come with it. But in general, as far as how we navigate the world, we're a little more on guard. And before you jump in, Marvin, too, it's like, I know luckily all 5 of us, with the exception of me, have Nigerian first names. So but my first name is Justice. So I'm not just upon like my name and just my appearance. People don't always know I'm African, and because our last name is very similar to like O'Reilly, like they just don't know. They just don't assume it. I went to college with some people that I graduated with, and they're like, "Wait, I heard the other day that you're African. I never knew that at school." I was like, I don't know how you didn't know that, but my first name being Justice. So I think that is a little bit of an advantage. While having an African first name, it automatically anyone that people can know from the jump, okay, this person's African, and that could come with some positive or some negative. So I think it goes both ways.
What about you, D-Boy? What about you? What's your thoughts?
Well, for me, I think definitely it was an advantage for me just because of our parents. I do remember mom and dad always, it was like certain things that they would kind of like make sure that we knew, especially when it came to like dealing with certain things. For example, if you got a ticket it could be for whatever, speeding, whatever. It was told to us, under no circumstance do you ever miss court. You have to show up on time, dressed in a shirt and tie with slacks on, and yes sir, no sir. And from talking to some of my friends, that was something that wasn't always practiced. Like, oh, I got a ticket, I ain't going to court. Like, forget that. So that was one of those like things. Like my mom told me that's like blasphemous.
Yeah, that's serious business.
You don't do that. Like, what do you mean you don't go to court? You have to go to court. So it's like, I do feel like some of those things that they kind of instilled in us at a young age kind of helped me and us when we got older, because it was like, it played out in our benefit being like that, because you got to take those things seriously, because in reality they are. You don't go to court, they'll send you to jail. So it's like, I think that was definitely one of the advantages that came with being African.
Bro, that court one was a big one. Golly, it was blasphemous to miss court. But don't you ever let mom even hear you say anything about you missed a court date? What? Oh my God.
So you want to go to jail?
Yeah, like what?
You have to go to court on time. What is wrong?
Oh my
Court now,
God.
please, and beg them not to take you to jail.
I'm trying to tell you.
Why?
Love it. Yeah, no, I mean, I share the same sentiment a lot of y'all share, man. As far as, my thoughts, it's one of those things that it gives me something that I'm always like, I'm a big thinker. Like I'm always kind of running certain plays in my head and seeing how things will go this way, that way, that, or the third. So for me, I know that with my dealings pertaining with law enforcement, I look at the person more so than the badge. Like if I read your energy and your energy is a little off, then the way that I'm going to approach it is going to be very, very cautious. And I don't know if that's necessarily a part of our upbringing, but I guess it kind of is, because we had to realize very quickly that we were different, either by being treated as such, aka bullied and all that jazz. But we were different. We were unique, not better. I've learned this from my mother-in-law. She says you're not better than anybody, but nobody is better than you. So that's the mindset that, at least for me, I don't carry myself like I'm better than anybody. So, and that even in my engagement with law enforcement, I'm a man just like you. So you're gonna hear a yes or a no, sir, and I'm gonna keep it very, very kosher. I don't, believe it or not, I don't like to argue. I don't go back and forth with people if I can help it. But if there are people that specific to law enforcement that might read my name and ask questions or make kind of ignorant statements, people don't really do that so much now in the late 2000s. But around the time when I first started driving and stuff like that, I did have a situation with law enforcement where the person was just kind of, they looked at my car, my driver's license, and they just kind of were making like weird questions that they were asking. And in retrospect, I wonder necessarily if that's because they thought I was, a scammer or doing something. I don't know the kind of car I was driving. I don't know. I really don't know. So I don't want to speculate. But for me, I walk with a sense of a duality. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that I'm different, but this person in law enforcement looks at me the same way he looks at everybody that looks like me, whether your last name is Okafor or Johnson. I'm still the same in certain individuals' eyes. So my hope is that their dealings with me, regardless of whatever bias they might have for people from my community, my culture, is not something that's going to trip out on me. And to Justice's point, which is a really good segue, is how do we feel like our African upbringing has helped or been an issue that we've had to deal with in our careers. So I'll say for me, because I do work in finance, that and it's a specific kind of finance where I'm help people with investing and whatnot. And so, I did early on in my career, because I made the conscious decision to use my Igbo name in my career, was something very, very intentional, because I say, you know what, this has been something I've been ashamed of, for lack of a better word, all these years. Then I talked with a gentleman, his name was D. Lloyd Parker at the Shape Community Center. And if you're familiar with the Shape Community Center, D. Lloyd Parker is the owner. He's a Pan-African gentleman. And he was telling me my name. I remember I was sitting with my girlfriend, who was now my wife at the time. We were sitting in Denny's studying for school, and then he ran up to me and was like, "What's your name?" And I told him, well, my name is my Igbo name, but I go by Marvin. Like, that's kind of how I always introduce myself, is my name is this, but I go by Marvin. And then he was like, well, why do you go by Marvin when this name, what does your Igbo name mean? I told him what it meant. He was like, brother, you need to start going by that name, because there's power in that name. And I was like, I never really thought about it like that. But from that day forward, I did. So career-wise, the conversation does jump in where people are like, where are you from? And, I have a little bit of apprehension, because I'm wondering why you're asking. Is it because you heard something negative about, people from Nigeria, about 419s and all that? But I make the conscious decision to say, this is who I am. This is a part of me, and either you're going to do business with me or not. And I haven't lost a client since, because of my name or my upbringing. If anything, it's a conversation piece. So that makes it pretty dope. But for anybody else, do you all feel like it's helped or hindered as far as your current career, or things that you'd like to get into business wise? Who wants to jump in as we finish this out?
Yeah.
Justice?
So I'll go ahead and take it first. So I think what you touched on, Marvin, is something that I think a lot of, I'll say Africans living in America, because you have to take the differences. We know Black Americans are known as African Americans, but Africans living in America, or who grew up in America, I think most of us have an identity crisis, right? Nigerians in general, being that Nigeria was colonized by Britain, a lot of Nigerians have English names. Okay, so so most of us have English names. So so some of us do grow up with an identity crisis in a way, for lack of a better word, which I think I had it too. All through high school, I went by Uche, which is short for Uchenna, which it means what God decides is best. Okay. So, but as I got into the working world, I go by Ernest. So, and it was just, I've always been Uche Ernest. So even sometimes I'll introduce myself as Uche Ernest. A lot of people that grew up with me, knew me through high school, played sports with me, know me as Uche. Those that work with me know me as Ernest. So it's just interesting, because sometimes when I run into somebody that I knew years ago and they say my name, I know how the relationship came about. But I think in as much as, like you said, your name you chose to go by because it gave you a conversational piece. I also work in finance, mainly banking, and in that area, it's yes I don't mind it being. I don't mind if it being a conversational piece per se. But we just have to deal with the reality. And this is one of those things that, like I said, our parents kind of told us growing up. I remember a time that our dad came into one of my cars, and he saw that I had a Nigerian flag in the car. And he was like, take that down. He was like, take that Nigerian flag down. And it wasn't that he was
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, he was. It wasn't that he wasn't proud about the culture. It was going now once again taking it back to his experiences when he first came to this country, and he was pulled over, or some of his classmates, some of the people that went to school saw a Nigerian flag or saw that he was Nigerian. And these were these were black people, treated him a little bit different. So he said, "Look, I don't want y'all to have that experience. I don't want anybody to treat y'all different because you're Nigerian." So he encouraged us to go by our English name and gave the reasons why. And because think about our parents want to think about always want their children to think about survival. Let survival be what's in the front of your mind. So it's something that I think that we all kind of go back and forth. What do you think, Justice? I think you're about to go up.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, my take was more of like from a cultural, like growing up in the home perspective, was that I feel like one disadvantage that comes with this background is the push to the parental push to try to like force school on your kids, like college, as well as just all these like I feel like being African, there's just this push to not only get your degree, get your master's degree, get your doctorate, get multiple doctorates, be an astronaut. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like it's a big push, and that sometimes can be a great thing. Your parents pushing you to be, do something great, but it becomes a very, very big problem when you're just simply not interested in those things. You can be super successful without going to college, but that's never something that's discussed in the household, growing up in an African household. So therefore, like myself, I was like, the doctor thing was pushed on me since I was in third grade. If you ask me what I want to do in third grade, uncles and aunties come over to the house, I'm like, I want to do something like in the entertainment realm. Mama chime in. You mean
entertain who? Entertain who? Yeah, entertain what?
Yeah, so I started to have this thing where when asked, I'd go, well, I either want to do something in the entertainment realm or be a doctor, but those are just two separate things. How could you even want to do one if you want to do the other one? But I felt the need to have to say that, and I took the science classes, the pre-med classes. I was majoring in that at first, and in college, and I was just struggling, like, not that I couldn't do the class, but I'm like, it's a whole lot harder studying something you really have no care about, and also it's just a prelude to the next course that's even harder, but about something that you just aren't interested in doing. So I feel that I could probably have. Of course, I'm still going to be super successful, but I could have been a lot further ahead had I not been African, because the conversation, I feel like, for non-African Black households is, well, what do y'all want to do? I mean, do you want to go to school? What do you want to do? As long as y'all do something, their parents are technically a lot more prouder. But with basically like being African, it's like, we need you to be lawyer, doctor, engineer, or nothing. And it's just like, man, that's just tough for a lot of kids. Our parents weren't too aggressive with that, but I know some kids were literally like, parents were like, I'm not even paying for you to go to school unless you're majoring in that. And it's like, it's just really tough. So when that person could be great at being an artist or doing all type of other things. So that was one of the advantages.
I think they just see one way of doing things, and because education was big for the previous generation, so it's kind of tunnel vision. And of course, now in the world we live in, you can be successful in a number of ways. So I think that's something that they have to unlearn, and then for us, we're learning that, and then our children and those after, we'll encourage them for education as well as you being a media person on YouTube, or not celebrity, but an influencer. Any way you secure the bag long term, I think, is a win if you're doing it legally. And so the game is a lot open now. What about you, CJ?
Super quick, funny note, CJ, before you jump in. Like, even this past weekend, I was showing Mom my artist's music videos, just like, letting her know how everything's going, and she's like, cool, awesome. So when are you applying for med school? I'm like, Mom, I'm trying to build something here. like, dang, like, it's like,
wow.
Now. And she's still like, okay, please, we need the application on by next year. And I'm just like, but she keeps showing me all these videos of other kids that was in my age. Neck, I just finished medical school. Auntie, our son is entering medical school. Justice. I'm like, Mom, like, I'm building something here. Leave me alone. And it's
tunnel vision, man. Tunnel vision.
One way to do it is crazy. I think she's gonna ask me that until I don't know. Yeah. See that? Go ahead.
But no, I was just gonna say, man. Could you guys imagine telling Mom, I want to play video games for a living?
Absolutely,
that's actually a thing that people make money doing right now, like Twitch.
Millions.
Could y'all imagine telling Mom that y'all wanted to do anything?
Video games.
that didn't utilize
Video
college.
what? Video what?
Come on.
Bring down that gas system right now. Bring it down.
Come on. Oh,
Bring it
my
down.
I will break that PlayStation.
man. Oh my goodness. So yes, bro. I completely understand, bro, when you say that. But I think for me, career wise, it's kind of, it hasn't, hurt me, or, I can only say that it's benefited me. I think I think when people address me, I think they know I'm about business. Pretty fair, straight to the point. Let's just get it done. I think I feel I like share that sentiment in all my dealings. But
Is that as a result of your upbringing, where it's just very get to it, just get to it?
I probably would say that. Yeah, I think I could say I probably learned that from you and Uche. You know what I mean? I think it's let's make it as quick as a straight line as possible. You know what I mean? We don't got to talk. We don't got to do too much, wahala. Let's just get to the point. But yeah, I think I can definitely say that's definitely helped me in my business dealings. So
Love it. What about you, D-Boy?
Well, as far as for me, it's actually always worked out for me in a positive way, I would say, because in my experiences, a lot of the stereotypes they had heard about Africans in reference to the position I may have been in at the time was something positive, like, oh, he's a nice African boy, he's respectful, he's very polite, stuff like that. So it has always worked in my benefit. But those stereotypes out there too, where they'll think that we steal or we scam or we're not who we say we are, we're here illegally, or there's so many different negative stereotypes that come with it. So it may have been a benefit now, but it could be a problem in the future. Who knows? But I'm proud of who I am, and I would not change it for the world. I'm a proud Nigerian African man, and I'll be there to the day I die.
I love it.
And just real quick, Marvin, I think I want to kind of sum up so we live in this world as immigrant, as Nigerian Americans, where now you can name a great Nigerian basketball player, or two or three or four or five, multiple, Nigerian football players, actors, rappers, but like CJ said, and also Justice said, when we were growing up, it was just hit the books. But I think now a lot of Nigerian parents, African parents, are starting to see that, okay, my kid can be great in doing this, whether it's playing video games, because you have YouTube out there that allows you to monetize the platform, or doing the TikTok stuff. I think like our generation raising our kids is now, you can be a famous musician. You can be the next Beyonce. You understand? Yeah. You got to get them books too. At least the basics. We don't want you out there not knowing how to read. But we're now raising our children, letting them know that they can be great doing anything. Okay. Do it the right way. Know the facts. Read your contracts. Whereas, like you said, our parents had tunnel vision. It was just because they came here on student visa. So the most immigrant parents that came from abroad were amongst the smartest in their families. I'm sorry to say, because the whole community chipped in money to help them come to the country. So that's another thing where in our community, we also deal with the fact that they think every Nigerian is a genius. And then we have on the lower rung, they think that some Nigerians are doing or scamming, and then everybody else is kind of in between. So it's a world that we have to navigate, and we have the emotional intelligence and the intelligence to just read our surroundings and always look to level up.
No, those great points. I mean, great points. I think what we're all saying for you all as the end listener is that we're not monolithic. We have our reasons for operating the way that we operate, knowing in the back of our mind that we are the children of immigrants. So there's a pride established, whether you're Nigerian, Ethiopian, Ghanaian, it doesn't matter. When you are an immigrant, I mean, because I've got colleagues whose family is Middle Eastern, and the way that they talk to them about going to school to be doctor, lawyer, engineer, it's the same thing. It's it's just an immigrant stigma of where you get to America, and America is the land of opportunity, and you got to make something shake as quickly as possible because it's bigger than you. As you mentioned, Uche, there are others that are chipping in, aka investing in your success with an expectation of getting some type of ROI on that on that investment. So it's one of the things for me, and I know you guys are the same way, is that we realize every single move that we make is a representation of those that have come behind us and those that are looking to us for guidance on how to move in the world when they get to the stage of life that we're at. So I think this has been a dope conversation, guys. Let's clap ourselves up out of here. This has been an amazingly dope conversation. We chopped up some good game, about our experience. Let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube if you share a similar sentiment of having to tell the substitute teacher that this is you. Don't call the name out, and if you started out being embarrassed, be honest about it. I mean, it was an embarrassing thing because I wasn't taught any better. We weren't taught to be proud of our heritage in one. I mean, we were taught to be proud in one aspect, but there was another aspect that we were not taught to be proud in because our parents were new here, so they didn't know the unspoken and the spoken things as far as navigating coming up in school. So we kind of had to figure this thing out, but I think all of us have made a very, very good example of how you can be successful. So I'm super excited for the next podcast episode. We're tackling some hard-hitting topics. Some episodes we keep it light, y'all, but some episodes we dive in. So let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on 5africanbrothers.com. Be sure to subscribe to the 5 African Brothers YouTube channel, and let us know your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree with the conversation today. And until the next podcast, I am Marvin. We have CJ, Uche, D-Boy, and Justice, and we are 5 African Brothers. Have a great day. Peace.